Hello and welcome to my kitchen. Today we are going to do some baking, and I wasn't going to film this, but I have already been to the store twice since I've started prepping and baking. And yeah, we're on challenge number 3, and I'm going to have to go back to the store for buttermilk. So I figured I'd pick up the camera and at least take you through some of this chaos that I've started. It's December. It's actually after Christmas. So my birthday's already passed. Christmas is already passed. I usually bake throughout the month of December. And I've talked about this last year, but it's kind of my gift to everybody. And yeah, also excuse my appearance. I haven't done anything. Anyways, it's kind of my gift to everyone, to people and my friends and family that I bake. This is the one time I do that. I have a degree in baking and pastry. Some people think I should bake daily, but it's a lot of work. And this is one of the reasons. Last year I talked a lot about mise en place and being prepared, prepping your ingredients prior to. And I started that yesterday, which led me to grocery trip number 1. Where I had to go pick up a couple of items. And then I woke up this morning, realized I still could use a couple of more items because I wanted to do one more recipe. So woke up, started working on a couple of things, prepped my first batch, put it in the refrigerator, ran to the grocery store, came back, and started working on recipe number 2 after I baked the first batch and realized I need more than just milk. I need buttermilk. So we're going to have to put all this on pause. I started creaming my butter with the sugar to get it fluffy. I just completely stopped and spooned it out into a container. And yeah, now this will just sit until I'm back with buttermilk. I guess let's run to the store. So before I head out, I also meant to mention that I already prepped another dough, making about 4 different types of cookies. One of them is like a Rice Krispie treat. It's got Rice Krispies, marshmallows in it. It's supposed to be like a little bit of a thinner cookie, very crunchy, crispy. Something went wrong. I don't know what. I need to go back through the recipe, research, and find out. You're going to see that the dough's very dry. I don't know if it's too much Rice Krispies or if it's not enough dough. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing butter or oil. I don't know. I need to find that out. But let's head to the grocery store. When we come back, we'll doctor this up and finish the other cookies. There are 4 cookies that I'm making. So the first cookie that was made already, they're done on the cooling rack. That is going to be a salted honey cookie. The second cookie is the Rice Krispie treat cookie. Again, we're working on that one. We'll see if it makes the cut. The third cookie, which I was in the process of making and now I need to go to the store for, are going to be maple cookies with a maple glaze. And then the last cookie that I'm going to make is going to be coffee cookie bars. I may make a 5th cookie. We'll see how much time I have. And that will also be coffee flavored. It's an espresso chocolate chip cookie with a brown butter cookie base. It's actually one of my favorite cookies. So we'll see how far we get today. I'm sure we're gonna have to do some baking tomorrow. In fact, I might even prep one or two of the doughs just to bake off tomorrow so I don't have as much to get done today. But if I can get all the dough made, then I'm on the right track for prep work tomorrow. Now, luckily, I live between 1 to 5 miles away from 3 different grocery stores. So I made it here pretty quickly. Luckily, it's not going to take too long to be out. All right, our bag has been secured. We not had a real problem, but I didn't want to buy a half gallon of buttermilk. It just seemed like too much. I've got plenty of milk at the house. So I saw something where you can take, or I researched it while I was in there. I can take lemon juice and mix in a certain amount of white vinegar that I can use as well. And the last option was yogurt, plain yogurt. So between my sister and I, Ava, we can eat up the rest of the yogurt, or I can find another recipe to make a dish with buttermilk / yogurt in it and go that route. So hopefully this works out. This will be the first time baking with yogurt. I'm usually one that follows a recipe to the T, especially because baking is a science. So I want to make sure that I am following everything so I don't ruin it. But because it's a science also means that I get to have a little bit of fun and do some experimenting as well. So let's head home and finish up these cookies. All right, we are back home, and the first thing that we're going to do is brown some butter. I looked over the recipe, and in the ingredients list, it says that I need 1 cup of butter, which would be 2 sticks. But when you're reading the directions, it only says to brown half of the butter. Now, I don't know if that's an error or if I don't know. You'll take half of the butter and melt in a medium saucepan and then continue to cook it past its boiling point. So that, I don't know. It doesn't ever say to include the rest of the butter. Let me read the rest here.
In a medium bowl, mix together the brown butter, sugar, eggs, vanilla, mix until smooth. Mix in salt, baking soda, and flour.
Yeah, I am definitely not seeing where it says to add the other half of the butter. All right, so I'm going to melt this down. I'm going to let it brown, and then, I might not want to put it on high heat. I'm going to start with 4, and we'll go from there, see how this does. I'm going to show you, I don't know if I can get all of the process because I need to watch the butter to make sure that it doesn't burn, but I do want to show you what they're talking about during this process. All right, so my bad, put it on too high of heat to get started, but we're going to bring this to a light boil, and I'm just stirring to make sure all of that butter melts before we get too far in this process. And once it gets to a light boil, it already has some foam on top because it was on a really high heat. I've got my bowl ready for once this has come to its browning point. Now the heat still might be a little high. I'm going to turn it down a little bit more. And the only reason why I'm turning it down more is because I like to control the process. So technically, once it comes to a boil, it then gets this foam over it. This foam is like phase 2. You're going to want to then start watching it after this point because now the actual fat molecules will start to darken, and that's where you're getting that dark color of the browning. and then the color of your top layer of butter, which is generally a little bit more clear, reflects that darker brown there. So I swirl. You may not be able to swirl depending on your cooktop, but I like to just see the color, make sure I'm watching it change. Now this process can take a long time if you've got it on a lower heat, or if you have it on a higher heat, they recommend a medium. So if you have it more than a medium heat, then you may want to watch it, like stand over it. I'm pretty comfortable with it. I've got it I've got it like at 3 on my stovetop. There it goes from 2 to 4. So I've got it at like a 3, and I'm just going to let it kind of go from here. Once we get the butter browned, then I'm going to mix it in with the rest of the ingredients. Now, we've already started this process as we talked about earlier. So this will be interesting because it's probably too big for the actual mixer since I added Rice Krispie treats and I added the marshmallows in the dish. You almost fell there. Stay with me. Oh, and I'm making a mess. Now, if I don't get this recipe all together this time, it's okay. I'll probably just get online, find another recipe for Rice Krispie treats and marshmallows without actually making a Rice Krispie treat. Or I've got some chocolate. I can melt that down and do Rice Krispie treat bars or something of that nature. Always adapt, get creative. This should not be a stressful process. It should be fun. If it doesn't work out, just pivot. We are now getting to the point where we're seeing some brown flecks. That's the butter starting to brown, and I'm currently happy with this. I'm going to let it sit for just a couple more seconds, get a little more color in there before I take it off. I've already prepped my bowl. I'm going to now take my butter off the eye. Now, what you're looking for to know that this is pretty much ready is a nutty smell from the butter. If it starts to smell like it's burning, you've gone too far. And I know that sucks to say, especially if you only have a small amount of butter. This is just 1 stick. I really wouldn't do much more than that unless your recipe calls for a lot of butter. I like to do it in small batches to control it. Stick it in the freezer. And we'll come back to it in about 10 minutes. Now, in this 10 minutes, what we're going to do is go ahead and make sure everything's ready to go, that when we take it out, we can go ahead and mix it in the existing mixture. Again, it already has everything in it because it was already a dough before. I just needed, I think, this additional stick of butter to make it all come together as an actual dough instead of it being broken pieces. So if this doesn't fix it, we will be trashing this dough. It's fine. We've got other options. We are going to keep on moving. It is currently 12:40. We're 20 minutes away from 1 o'clock, which means I have about 3 hours before Ava comes home. And once she's home, she's going to want to talk and have dinner. So I'm going to go ahead and eat a quick snack so I don't starve myself for the rest of the day while this is cooling down. Finish that up, and we'll see how it comes out in about 10 to 15 minutes. We're pivoting. I am just going to try this out. So these are not supposed to be bars. It's supposed to be a cookie, but I just can't get the texture of the dough to come together. The base is fine. I honestly think there's just too many Rice Krispie treats in the actual mixture. My fault on that. I'm too far in though to completely trash it. I just want to see what it'll do. So I've pressed it down into the cookie sheet, the baking sheet. I probably could have gone with something a little thicker, like a casserole dish, but I just want to test it out. I'm not gonna probably use any of this. Maybe this will be just for me to munch on, so I don't eat up all the good cookies for everyone else. I don't have the oven on yet, so when I turn the oven on and I get it preheated for the next batch, we will see what we can do with that. Next, we're moving on to our maple cookie. This will be with the maple icing. So I've got my mise en place ready: flour, eggs, baking soda, baking powder, yogurt. This is substituting again for my buttermilk. And then I've got a little sack here. This has got salt, vanilla, and some maple syrup in it. I put it in this bag, and this way I can just pop the end, squeeze it all out, and I don't have to have a tablespoon for each one as I'm working through the process of actually mixing everything. Now, I read ahead in my notes, in the instructions, excuse me, and it does say that all of those items go in at the same time, which is another reason why I like to kind of read some of the instructions ahead of time. I wish I would have done that with the other cookie. Maybe I would have caught the whole butter situation, but here we are. So there are times that I'll do that. There are other times that I will go one for one, but I do want to complete this before 5 o'clock today so I can have my evening. We'll see how far I get. Now, I was a little unsure about this dough. This is a lot more of a wet consistency for a cookie dough. So I was very concerned. I am known for making bookies, which are more biscuit style cookies. A lot of that has to do with, sometimes it has to do with over whipping. Other times it could be too much flour or other product in it. I think they look good. We're gonna have to now make the icing and see how they taste. So I'm starting to clean up. Again, with me not properly planning and doing mise en place for all of the cookies at one time, I have also found another error. Well, not really. I got eggs, but when I was writing out my recipe, I wrote out for enough eggs together. I did not include egg yolk. And I brought egg substitute, but it doesn't, I should have used this recipe first so I could use the egg substitute for the whole eggs that are needed in this recipe. We're gonna get the cookies done. It's just taking a lot longer than I expected. So I'm in a pause right now. I really can't do much. I have actually set aside some mise en place for the other cookies, including the icing for the maple cookies. I haven't started that yet because it's one of those things where I want to make it, ice them, get all that done at one time. And so I'm going to wash some dishes, get the countertop cleaned off, and then I'll work on the icing. We'll see if I go to the store tonight, or I don't know, I might have to ask Ava to go pick some eggs up. I really don't want to go back to the store. we've cleaned up. Let's work on the icing. Now, I've already measured out everything except for the milk and the cinnamon here. So we're going to melt down and bring to a boil a stick of butter and I believe it's a cup. Now I can't remember, but it's here, of brown sugar. I'm just going to throw it on a medium heat just to get everything melted down. This is one of the beauties of having that room temperature butter just available. I already have some sitting out over here, is that at any time I can pull it and use for my dishes. I want to make sure all of the sugar gets dissolved. I've laid out some parchment paper because once I'm done with the sugar coming to a boil and I add the milk and the vanilla, we're going to let it cool for about 15 minutes and then we're going to add our powdered sugar. We now have some bubbling going on and this is my first time making this dish, so I'm going by instinct. I still feel like there's some sugar granules. I actually tested it. I put some out on the mat over here and ran my finger over it as it cooled down a little bit. And there's still some gritty to it, which means that the brown sugar hasn't fully dissolved. I also don't want to overdo this and have burnt flavor. So I'm going to move on to the next step, which is a fourth of a cup of milk. I'm using what's in the refrigerator. And I'm going to stir that in. And we're also going to add in a tablespoon of our maple syrup. Nothing like some sugar on sugar. All right. Put that away. Now I'm going to whisk this all up together one more time. We're going to bring this to another boil for a few minutes. And then we'll let it cool. Our sugar mixture with the butter and the maple syrup has cooled down. It's been about 15, probably a little closer to 20 because I started watching TV. So we're now going to mix in just a couple of small scoops of flour, of powdered sugar, sugar on sugar on sugar. And this process is probably going to take a little longer than what I want to tonight. And I wish I had a sifter. I would have sifted this before. But this is what we've got. I do have... So now we... Start from the top. So now we are taking our powdered sugar and adding it to our mixture. We are going to try and whisk out majority of these lumps. I should have sifted the powdered sugar prior to the start of this process, but here we are. So we're going to do our best to keep adding and whisking until we have a good consistency. So we are down to the last little bit of powdered sugar in our mixture. The actual icing has lightened. It was a lot darker. But now that we've added all that powdered sugar, we have a lighter product. All right, I think we are now ready to ice. I have no clue how I'm going to do this. I know if it gets too thick, I can add a little bit of milk back to it. Let's try maybe spooning it on. I just don't think it's going to actually like glaze over. So I may have to. Maybe I'll add a little bit of milk, or maybe if I heat it up. Let's try heating it up. I'm also going to add just a teeny bit of milk, as I want the icing to really fall over these a little bit. All right, let's try it now. I might still have to spread it out just to get everything moving. The milk and a little bit of heat helped, but I may even can add a little bit more so I don't have so much icing on each one. I'm gonna try one more trick. So after I graduated with my associates, I bought a bunch of baking products because I just knew I was gonna be doing this for years on end. So I have some piping bags. I'm gonna throw the icing in the piping bags and see if I can pipe out the icing. All right, so let's see how this works out. This is definitely faster. Now all the cookies that you're helping me, good job, that I'm making, I generally package them up. These we're gonna see. We're probably gonna have to put less of these in per gift so that we have plenty of space. I'm gonna bring the other rack of cookies. I'm gonna leave it like this so if they do drip, they drip on the paper until we're actually done with everything. Once they dry, hopefully they'll harden pretty good and we won't have to worry about a lot of smudging. Now, this was a fun recipe. I don't recommend this to be a quick recipe, being that you have to do the cookie and the icing. Any cookie that you can just pop out of the refrigerator, or once the dough's cool, you can quickly drop and bake or cut and bake, are going to be ones that are going to be quick and easy. As you can see, get real quiet when I get focused. Let's see if we can squeeze out one more. Hopefully that falls into place. All right, this batch is done. They're iced. We're gonna let them cool off. I'm gonna clean up the mess of the powdered sugar and the rest of the icing. We're probably not gonna get to the other cookies tonight. I've already done all the prep work, and we'll check in the morning to see how far we get with our last two cookies.